today. This is the Pro Relations forum that several of us are on and kind of heading. I would like to make a real brief announcement. Jason Haxley from Louisiana he's kind of heading up a raffle we're going to be doing for USPTA Southern. This is for pros, PTR, USPTA, or even non-certified pros. It'll be a raffle we'll be giving away. Claire, can you put his contact information in the chat box? And I just go ahead and contact Jason directly if you have any questions. Basically, we'll be giving away a Theragun. It's worth about $399. There'll also be other prizes like cases of balls and some other stuff he's going to be working on for prizes to give away. The deadline will be August 1st, and then we'll be announcing the winner August 10th. They'll be based on different entries. So basically, if you complete your USPTA profile, you'll get 5 points. Become an affiliate with Theragun, you'll get 10 points. And then also, if you have any likes, which shares, virtual entries through Facebook or Instagram, make sure you put down hashtag USPTA Southern. We can track it that way. Or you can also tag the USPTA Southern Division Facebook page at official USPTA Southern Division. And then I think I got all of that. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Jason. I was hoping he could join us today, but he got tied up and wasn't able to join us. So contact Jason if you have any other questions about it. He can clarify any questions. So, all right, let's go ahead and roll into our meeting. I'd like to introduce two of our USPTA Southern pros, Pat Malone and Chris Tully. I'll let them briefly introduce themselves. Gentlemen, Chris, you want to go first?
All right, my name's Chris Tully. I'm PTR, not USPTA. But I work in North Augusta, South Carolina. I'm at the North Augusta Parks and Recreation Department. We do business at Riverview Tennis. I get the smaller of the venues as opposed to Pat, but we have 7 courts. We've got no clubhouse, but we've got a pretty thriving program going on.
Pat?
Shall I go? So I'm Pat Malone and director of NEA Tennis in Jonesboro, Arkansas. And we have 15 courts, public courts, and most of those are getting resurfaced actually as we speak, as it's raining. They're not doing much work today, but I am a USPTA professional and current president of the Arkansas chapter. And just happy to be on the program today. Hope some folks can learn something about beginner programs.
Great. Thank you guys for joining us today and everybody else that's on the call. We'll go ahead and start the questions. We have a series of about 10 questions that we'll be asking. We're going to alternate between the two guests. And then at the end, the last 10 or 15 minutes, we'll actually do a question and answer. So any questions and answers, if you want to put in the chat box, please feel free to do so. And we'll get to those, the last part of the meeting. Okay, we'll go ahead and go into the meeting. Real quick, what beginner program or programs have you run? Pat, if you want to start us off first, that would be great, and then we'll go to Chris.
So we've been doing this. I've been doing this with Parks and Rec. This is a start of our 4th year. And we started out, of course, just with beginner lessons of two pros on the public courts, and it quickly evolved into after-school tennis programs, which for me, I just saw a huge market for that in our area. We live in a town of about 80,000 people, and there was no organized tennis at all, on the public tennis courts when we started, but 3 very thriving private clubs. So it's a tennis community, no doubt, and we've just opened it up to the masses. And the Jonesboro Parks and Rec programs don't start until after 5 o'clock, and so the gap there at 3:30 to 5:30 just seemed perfect for after school programs. And so that's really what we jumped into, and it's grown outside of Jonesboro, and we see about 350 kids a week in 3 different counties, and just continuing to grow. So
that's great. Chris, what about you? What kind of beginner programs have you run?
Well, I've been here 13 years now, and unfortunately, our city's only 27,000, and we're kind of the only game in town. And we had nothing going on the courts when I got here, so we started a program, Tennis 101, which was a beginner for adults that had never played. That's turned into where we also do Tennis Apprentice, which I know is a USTA Southern program. That program's been great for us. We built it up. We had 64 teams play adult tennis this past year out of our little facility. So we're bursting at the seams there. We've got a red ball clinic for the kids that we do every week, and I've got an orange ball clinic that I do every week, which is kind of the introduction for those 5 and 6-year-olds, and then the 7 and 8-year-olds. That kind of leads them into some advanced junior programs.
That's great. We'll go on to the next question. We'll start with Chris first this time. Both of you guys kind of talked about there wasn't anything really community-based when y'all both first started. That's one thing I picked up on. Chris, how did you market your program since you went in not knowing, there's very little tennis? How did you go in and market your program?
A lot of it's been word of mouth. I am right out here in the middle of a bunch of ball fields, so just me being out there and being a small community. Facebook's been a huge help. We've got our own page, Riverview Tennis, devoted to that. Instagram, just in the last probably last 2 years. Our high school teams play out of this facility, so that helps market it as well, getting down into the schools. The Riverview Facebook page, last year, that's the only place, just being a COVID year, that I even put anything out about tennis camp in the summer, and we ended up with 49 kids, which was a record for us. Now, I'm sure COVID helped that we were the only person doing a camp at the time, but it's been very successful for us.
That's great. Pat, what about you? You said you had 3 other clubs in town, which you obviously I'm aware of, but since there was nothing, I'm sure the other clubs that had experience marketing their programs, how did you get into the Jonesboro community and start marketing your program or programs?
Yeah, the first person I called 4 years ago was Gary Jones, who's the current director of tennis at one of the clubs, Jonesboro Country Club, also current Arkansas Tennis Association president. But I called Gary, and I've known Gary for a long time, and told him what we were going to do, and he jumped all over helping us, and he was happy to see us. Gary's always tried to grow the game of tennis, and the private clubs needed somebody like us, no doubt about it, to help feed them new players. And we know our role here as a grassroots program. We do a lot of things, different types of pros, but we're a grassroots program building the game, and so that was very important. But we teach a lot of free tennis. And not only is that the right thing to do, but it's the best marketing you can do, no doubt about it. So we are heavily involved in several different nonprofits teaching tennis for free, and have a lot of community support from that. And that, no doubt, is huge for us as well. But we do all the traditional. Facebook is very big for us, and we use a phone application basically to run the business, and there's no way we could do it without it. Little program called Court Reserve. Tim and Ashley Owens own the company, and so it does all our scheduling, court reserving, runs financial reports, markets the programs with email and weather updates, and so that's been huge for us.
That's great. Thank both of you guys. Pat, we'll start with you this next round also. What are the benefits that you've seen in offering some of the programs that you've been able to offer and get into the community?
I think no doubt the biggest has been just we've created a family of fun tennis players, adults and kids socially distant fun on the courts, that wasn't there before. Just a fun, safe place for people to go, a healthy place for people to go. And no doubt those are, the biggest benefits, which is right in line with our mission statement, to help improve the quality of life, in our community. And that easily just allows us to continue to market that way.
Chris, what about you?
Well, I mean, my goal, I guess what I had to do when I got here is fill up 7 empty courts that were never used. We've done that. Unfortunately, good news, bad news, we've outgrown our facility. We've filled up those courts. A lot of adults playing tennis. That helps me with future lessons. Our junior program, whereas I could count 5 on one hand when I started, we had 60 active kids this past year, which was awesome. That doing the clinics and getting out in tournaments and stuff like that. Created a real family feel. Just being a small community, we do a lot of specialty, what I call specialty round robins. We've got Wimbledon Day coming up in a couple of weeks, which just turns into a big picnic by kind of potluck, and we use wooden rackets and all that crazy stuff. And it kind of put us on the area. Guys, the area all of a sudden, tennis is on them.
That's great. Kind of feeding off that, what are some of the challenges that you guys have faced? I mean, we all have challenges, whether we're private or public. There's obviously things that come out, little bumps in the road. I could, everybody mute, if you could, real quick, if you're on the call. What are some challenges that you face, Chris?
Obviously, the good news, we built the program up. The bad news, we've outgrown our facility. I mean, for 7 courts, 64 adult teams trying to play in here, limits practice time. It limits, a day like today where there's a rain out of a match tonight, I'm going to be, I've already gotten 2 texts just since the call started about people needing makeup courts, and that gets a little bit tight. We've got an old school Parks and Rec, and what I mean by that is, baseball, football, basketball kind of rule everything, and all the money that gets funneled into the program goes there. We've kind of made some noise, had some money thrown our way about 1.5 years ago, and it was down to, should we add more courts or resurface courts, put new lights in a clubhouse, and we chose the resurfacing and the lights, which are both fantastic. And then COVID hit, and we run out of money to put the clubhouse in. But clubhouse I saw as a way of maybe limiting some of the other stuff and actually making a membership where people have to pay to join. You struggle with 7 courts. It's me. I'm director of tennis, pro, whatever. Guy that cleans the bathrooms and stocks them at the end of the day. I have to do it all, and it's hard to bring in another pro and tie up 2 of our 7 courts when there's so much league play. So most of it comes in there. I'm sitting in a baseball scores tower, which is where my office is, and all the balls get stored in concessions downstairs, all 4 baskets of different things. So we have our own little battles to fight in a smaller community, smaller facility like this.
I understand completely. Pat, what about you guys? What are some of the challenges y'all face over there, which I'm sure some of them might be similar to what Chris has faced?
Absolutely identical to what Chris faces daily. The slow wheel of government, no doubt about it. Lack of courts, not only a number of courts, but just the amenities and just decent courts, to play on is so important. I found, which is just like a clean house or a dirty house to me. It's got to be a welcoming place, and so we've tried to build that, and we're getting there. We got a long way to go. We have grown so fast, and so growing pains of not having enough certified, qualified coaches. USPTA or PTR certified coaches is a huge hurdle, no doubt, especially here in Northeast Arkansas, to find a good pro without indoor courts, without offering a year-round job for a guy. How can you recruit? It's tough. So we've been able to be resourceful with college players, high school players. A friend of mine, I think Paul Pouch is on here today. We are really looking at what we think is a problem with high school tennis, and we want to involve high school coaches in maybe further in their careers. It's not new news, but for Arkansas, we want to form an association, so we're going to try to do those things to help solve that problem. Maybe get some more coaches from the schools to help us in community-wide programs, which only feeds their high school programs. So
that's great. Pat, we'll start with you again. Did you receive any resources to maybe try to help you guys started, either through grants or through funding or resources, boots on the ground? Did y'all get any resources over there to maybe help you get started?
So I, immediately formed a working relationship with USTA, and through the types of programs, being a grassroots type tennis pro, I just knew that was the place to go, and it's been, phenomenal. We wouldn't have made it without USTA or USPTA, USTA Southern Cares grant, Play It Forward grant, diversity grants, after school program grants. We've gone after it. It's out there to get for pros that are willing to, to work, at it and sustain it and to keep it going. So I have lots of help and very appreciative. Wouldn't have made it without it.
It's good to hear. Chris, what about you? Did you receive any resources, either boots on the ground or grants or, advice or funding or whatnot? If you can, just explain, what it was now you got it.
I actually had Bill Dopp come by probably 10 years ago. Showed me some of the stuff, but our first major resurface, which was pretty bad on the courts, I got a big grant from the USTA to get that done with no help from the Parks and Rec. I mean, it's just where I walked in, basically said, "Here we go, we get $26,000," which made me a hero for 3 minutes. The tennis apprentice program, we get a lot of resources to help with that, even things like COVID relief, and talked to the USTA some about future plans, and they were much more interested in more courts than the resurfacing and lighting this time around, but they're still a good working relationship with a bunch of people up at USTA.
That's good. All right. So as far as advice, I know each facility, even within our own southern section and even within our states, are sometimes different. There's also a lot of, similarities, things I feel like we can always learn something from somebody, whether it's a country club, an athletic club, or a park and recreation center. What advice would you have, either similar to yours or even a club that you think might benefit, if they're considering running a program? What advice would you give them as far as, maybe getting started, what direction to go, how they could go about doing all that? Chris, if you want to start first, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough good things about the entry-level programs. I mean, it's some of the reports that I write over and over again for the city, trying to get their attention. 2018 is the last big one I did. But I'd written down every adult player that played on a league team out here, and it was 520. Out of that 520, 111 of them had come through our beginner tennis program. That's a huge number, and it's to say I'm doing an 8-week program twice a year, and for free, but it's not that big of an output. I mean, hour and a half each clinic, that's just not that much time to really invest in growing your program, and it's been so good for us. Where I struggle and some of the challenges, but advice. I mean, the progression plan for the juniors, just being by myself, that becomes an issue for me sometimes. How to get them out of the orange ball into our beginning advanced and green dot, and, you know, at what point, and being a community of our size, the tough talks with parents. Yeah, your one sibling's ready to go, the other one's not, you know, and that kind of breaks things up a little bit for us. I love the league tennis. I think that keeps a lot of the players going, keeps them interested, keeps them focused, and keeps them from dropping out. And I really like our specialty days. I mean, we do a round robin every Friday during the summer when there aren't leagues being played. And that's open for anybody. Of course, 28 people, we filled up our 7 courts, but the Wimbledon day we have coming up, which everybody brings a covered dish. We set up tables. It's a big picnic. We'll probably have 45 out. We'll do a luau at the end of the summer. I mean, all of those things help us with a sense of community, and it's a family feel here. You know, the juniors intermix, come out and play the round robins with adults. And, you know, I might have a kid that was playing Belton last week playing with a 3-0 player. But, you know, it gets everybody. We all know who each other are. So. Good thing if you're trying to build a program.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Pat, next to you, or next
Yes,
question.
sir. Hey, same as Chris, you know, we the Tennis Apprentice has been great. You know, so beginner programs important for every facility. And I would even take that further and say that, you know, if it's a facility really looking to have a tennis program, you better hire a tennis pro. And, you know, I truly believe that tennis pros ought to be the ones running the tennis programs, not parks people, but tennis pros, certified, qualified tennis pros running the programs. And so that's helped us. We happen to have one that's USPTA Pro of the Year in Arkansas that's capable of teaching anyone from age 4 to age 85, does the chicken dance with the little kids and slows it down for the seniors. You know, Jim Merriman, and people. It's about people that can relate to other people, but pros that, you know, are invested in the program, that have bought into your mission. You know, the program's mission of is just so important, because parks tennis is a little different than club tennis. And like Chris said, we take the trash out, we shovel the snow, and just big part of it. So the people are so important, I think, to any facility. And again, tennis pros, you know.
I completely agree. I think everybody else would with you guys, as far as you know, what y'all talked about and what some of your answers were, and the fact that tennis pros are just you know, essential for programming as far as growing. Real quick, this is kind of a curveball question, but I think both of you guys are going to be able to answer. It kind of led me into my you know, based on your answers from this last one. I know that retention is a big thing for us as tennis professionals and clubs. Pat, do y'all have any way of tracking players, or what y'all do to try to really retain the players you bring into the game?
You know, I think it starts, no doubt, with, you know, right from the start with customer service, and just communicating, having a great tool, efficient tool to communicate with everybody. You know, and again, the phone app allows us to do that, to keep up with the players that have signed up. If someone drops out of a weekly clinic, we call them and say, what's wrong with little Susie today? And so every single day we're keeping up.
Good. Chris?
Oh, me, I just work every day. Yeah, I think what Pat said, the customer service part. I mean, I don't let anybody play out here, even if they've never been in a program. If I've seen them a second time, I'll talk to them. You know, just to let them know they are loved and they are cared about. It takes a lot of phone calls, a lot of text to let people know that, you know, that same thing. That, hey, you need a 2-5 team? Let me call some captains for it. Hey, you need a 4 or 5 person to play with? Let me call some people. And we try to permeate that up and down through the juniors, all the way through the adults.
That's great. Thanks both of you guys for answering that one. All right, to the next one. If you had anything to do over again, as far as changes you might make to a program, maybe how you marketed it, how you approached it, what would be some of the things you would do over, and then maybe elaborate why you may make that change or would have made that change.
Well, again, I hate to harp on the same thing, but I would have invested in the technology of the phone app the first minute I started instead of waiting a year.
Chris, any changes that you would make or think you'd do over again, as far as maybe making the program or programs better? Or, I mean, I think we all do that from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, with just 7 courts, and no matter how big the program gets, we are lucky that I can change on a dime. So I've made changes a lot over the years. I can't agree enough with Pat about technology, and there are little things that I do, even with the one-on-one class, where it's like, hey, I need this program. It sends out a text to them when it's raining like this, instead of me having to individually text or call. And there are a lot of things like that I would do over. I guess the biggest part, if you're talking tennis apprentice or some of these programs, these entry level, I wish I could find time to maybe do a tennis 102. What happens after they've done the free part, and yet they're, kind of in limbo sometimes. You've got tennis shoes. They've still got their borrowed tennis racket. How do you keep them motivated? I've got an entry level 2-5 clinic, which I invite them to. We do one night, which is USTA reservation free, that I try to get some of the men involved in. But I think those programs are much more important now than I thought they were a few years ago.
That's great. Thank you guys so much. As far as the programs that you run, and we'll start with Chris first, is there any length of time that you kind of stick to? 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks? As far as is there a special format that you use? Do you like keeping it short, or do you like changing it up depending on the level of play? I guess basically what the question is what does your program look like as far as length, sessions, and then format?
Tennis 101, Tennis Apprentice, I started out as 6 weeks. I've increased that to 8 weeks, and that was to include, I've really emphasized like simple things like warming up for a match. I start incorporating that in the 4th week, just because I had a new team go get whipped in a match when the other people whipped the correct format of warming up, and they had the deer in the headlight look. Players that they beat the week before, but because they were doing that, kind of, it just 8 weeks. Where the 8th week, literally, there's a new can of balls on every court, and they walk out, and I'll put 4 out there, and they're actually playing a match. So that's been with the Tennis 101. The 2-5 clinic on Thursday night's been a big help. Kind of getting them around other people, which really helps. The open men night, and then red ball. I mean, like any of us, the goal of getting them to rally. We do some, I call it intramural leagues during the summer, where I'll actually do, it's kind of on a trial level format, but I'll put junior teams together with red ball, orange ball, and green dot and regulation. And so each team has 4 entries, and all of a sudden you've got an advanced kid rooting for that little red ball kid, and seeing if they can't win a match, help them get another line one. So all that's good for the pathway. But I hope that answers the question.
Oh yeah, very more. Pat, what about you as far as length of programming, the time? Is there certain things that you look at as far as length and number of sessions and even ages and format? Different. That's kind of something Chris was talking about, the different ages and that he incorporated. Mm-hmm. So how about you on your end?
Pretty much the same as Chris. It's been fluid. We do a lot of adapting and changing. but we follow the school calendar, you know, for our after school program. So they'll run 2 8-week sessions, you know, each semester. I'm sorry, 4 8-week sessions each semester. And then, you know, our summer clinics, of course, a little bit different, but pretty much the same as Chris. We'll do them 8 weeks in an hour to 2 hours, depending on if it's juniors, you know, and the age group there.
That's good. One of the things I picked up on real quick is the fact that you guys, neither one of y'all have indoor courts, and as we know in the South right now, we're both of us are needing canoes to get around places. As far as your programs, do you try to run them year round? Do you try to find alternative sites like maybe gymnasium or schools? How do you, first of all, do you run any programs that you offer year round? And if you do, how do you do it?
So we run our after school programs for pretty much the 12 and under kids year round. We've been able to secure some community centers owned by the city, you know, and again, because we run those 3:30 to 5:30, the Parks and Rec volleyball and basketball programs generally don't start till 5:30 or 6. So those times have been available for us. And we have a couple of different private schools that we run programs at year round because they have cafeterias that aren't being used. We've been in everything, every type of building, but we run a lot of the 12 and under stuff. We've added yoga and some fit tennis where we do take adults inside to the gyms and run them through circuit fitness type programs. And so those are some of the things we've done.
That's good. Chris, what about you?
Yeah, I run everything year round. And I mean, in South Carolina, you know, in January, we might see some 32s, but other than Christmas weekend, we didn't get below freezing this year. It gets cold, but January, for whatever reason, is the third busiest month here every year. And I'm miserable and just freezing. So those programs all go year round. With the adult beginner program, I always start it and I try to build in a rain day or two, but it's important to be done by Halloween because if not, they get lost up in the holiday rush and I have to finish by June 1st. They get caught up in the vacation rush. But every other clinic I do, everything with the kids, I do year round.
Kevin went ahead and asked a question. We'll go ahead and get that answered. Kevin Theos asked, what do you say if a parent wants their 7-year-old in yellow ball right away?
I saw that question.
I say, trust me, come watch this red ball first. And then, you know, and then hit them a yellow ball. Doesn't take much.
Yeah, typically the same thing. You know, of course, that's always a fun talk, but it's, you know, let them know it's for their good. Gosh, I can't comment on Pat's age. He's sure younger, but I'll go, man, I wish we'd had these 30 years ago. You know,
absolutely.
That would be for everybody. And, you know, stress to them the importance of rallying and the fact that, golly, a yellow ball is just going to be tough for a 7-year-old to sustain a rally all the time.
No doubt.
Chris, Stuart, I don't want to interrupt, but Kelly has a question in the chat for Pat. In regards to your after-school program, are the kids transported from school as a group, or did the parents individually bring them to you after the school program?
Great question. You know, and we want an NEA tennis bus to go get them, but we haven't got there yet. But the parents are bringing them, you know, for our after school programs that parents pay, that they bring the kids there and pick them up. We happen to have multiple programs going in different towns, and there are a couple of facilities right next to schools where they can walk across the street to our after school program. We are in the process of filing for a new NJTL chapter to teach the underserved here in town, and we've worked out a way to bus those kids to us at one of the facilities. So kind of a blend, but mostly it's been parents for sure. And it's a big problem, more on the poverty side, getting those kids to us. So we've hopefully overcome that a little bit. But great question.
We have that issue. We have a underserved area, poor area of town, and we actually did a program for those kids. I went out there a few times with quick start nets and different balls, and then we had them coming here. We had volunteers from the church that would pick them up and take them. But yeah, it was an issue. I mean, get their parents to commit to do it, it was tough. So. Not an easy question.
No, no, it's not. It kind of is. Y'all kind of elaborate a little bit. If you can elaborate maybe a little more, and then we'll go into our question and answer in the chat box. As far as beginner-based programs, I know we've talked about Tennis Apprentice, we've talked about Red Ball, Orange Ball, beginner juniors. What are some of the programs y'all offer as far as, say you have a group of adults who are in Tennis Apprentice? What programs, or even juniors, what programs do you guys offer as a pathway to keep them involved, maybe to go to the next step? Chris, if you want to start with that one, then we'll go to Pat. That would be great.
We, in the area, we have what's called rookie leagues. And so I'll get our players together with Petersburg's players, with Newman's players, and we get them all out there together. The rookie leagues, they actually have to play matches, but we mix the players up, and each facility hosts, a different night. There are also events that we call play dates, where it's not so much the formal doing a match, but to get them over. Because one of the things, and I famously tell these players all the time, when they're scared to sign up, they're scared to do it, I'll say, you can tie your shoe and unlock your car. You're probably not going to be the worst player in the group. I'm not promising you to be the best, but even after they finished 8 weeks, they're still scared. And it's nice to get them together with other people who've gone through a program. Oh yeah, their backhand really is weak also, or they're scared of the net just like I am, or gosh, their serve doesn't look like on TV as well. So it's good to get them together with that. It's really the whole reason I started those Friday round robins, to get them out and play, to see how nice tennis players on the whole are, because everybody's there to help, and that kind of incorporates them into the community area. And and the 2-5-3-0 leagues, encouraging them to play in that. We try to keep groups together. So this group that just graduated 2 weeks ago, we're trying to make them on a team, and maybe find a team that have a couple old salts that could jump in there and play with them. And then the last one, like I said, the exact same thing. Wimbledon Day, they're all invited. Yeah, you got to wear all white. Yeah, you got to use a wooden racket, but it's fun. You'll go out and have a great time with everybody, and that seems to help.
That's super. Pat, what about you? What are some of the programs y'all offer as far as going to the next level? Maybe not throwing them to the wolves yet, but getting them started and getting a company to play. What are things y'all offer?
So really, social leagues and ladders. Outside a traditional USTA league and junior team tennis, we can't have enough social leagues. These beginners, if it's 35 degrees, they're ready to play. And so, we've created social leagues on several nights a week, and also challenge ladders, another form of technology used with an app where the players can just, using the phone, set up a match at their own time, in their own facility. So it's just kind of a player matching service called Tennis Rungs. And it's been great for us to try to blend with all the USTA league stuff that we, share court time with. We want to do that. So.
So just to pause here, we got a few questions in the chat. So from Bill Dopp, would love to hear Chris talk more about his famously successful retention rate with adult beginners and why he has those types of success rates. So Chris?
Well, I'd like to think it's kind of incorporating them into our tennis family. You know, when they jump right out of play and they can jump in and play with other adults. Gosh, we do so many crazy things to try to get them involved. We've had tri-level, just intramural tri-level teams that play. Unfortunately, with a lot of this stuff, I run into the 7-court issue again. But they very quickly in round robin start meeting other people. I think I get a lot of one of the things I didn't mention is core players, both adult and juniors. I mean, I'll have 5 juniors helping with the tennis camp next week, and I've got adults that help with the tennis 101 as well as juniors, and they're kind of ambassadors for me, so they also help with these teams. Making them feel important. We talk about playing league tennis on week 1. When, of course, they probably don't hear half of what I say on week 1 is they're just holding a racket going, how am I going to hit this? But we keep promoting that and trying to promote. They have a home. It's a place here. So we try to retain as many as we can, Bill.
All right, thanks, Chris. And another question from Stephen Faulkner. Do you ever use the Fast 4 format for beginner programs?
I have used it myself, Chris. I've used Fast 4. And about half people like it and half don't, is what I found. But we've had to use it on limited courts with as many people as we've got these tournaments. It's given us a way to get more rounds in. No doubt, but we fight the battle of trying to make it easy to get people into the game of tennis, and to me, there's just so many different things going on. Changing the score up has just been another little hurdle that we've tried to embrace, but I just don't know if it's going to work or not.
I've had a great success. I could do it with the juniors, especially the live let part. They love that. I don't know that they love it. I love it. I love watching them have to do it. The adults, it's harder. It's hard to get them to switch up like that.
Chris, Stuart, we have another question in the chat. Do you want me to wait till the end, or are we good to go?
No, you can go and ask now. We can, if any of y'all want to ask questions in the chat box, feel free to. Claire's going to take those, and if we don't quite, if you want to kind of, elaborate, we may call on you. But yeah, feel free to put any chats in the chat box, and we'll take them as we go.
All right. So next question from Kevin Theos: do you schedule events around the schedules of other sports? For Pat,
you asking me?
Chris, if you want.
Yeah, Chris. Yeah.
I don't really have to. Our courts kind of stand alone. We have problems with parking. If there's a big event like the baseball tournament this weekend, we're going to be one of the host sites for South Carolina Adult Championships. A week from Friday, there's a baseball tournament going on here at the same time. So parking will be a bear. We've got the Peach Jam coming up at the middle 2 weeks of July, and that is a national event put on by Nike. It's nothing, we've had Shaq O'Neal with his kid in there. We had LeBron James when he was still alive. It'll be a huge event, and typically we could stay out of their way. It's just our parking becomes an issue.
So mostly the juniors I don't, but the adults I look at every football calendar and every other sport calendar out there that draws them away for a weekend for tournaments. And then, of course, our indoor programs, I do have to work around every sport, from pickleball and basketball to volleyball in our community centers. So I do work around those some, but not been too bad.
All right, everybody. Thanks, Pat. Thanks, Chris. Chris Stewart lost connection. He must be having some internet problems.
Just one of our
you
last problems we have nowadays. Were there any other questions? Did I miss anything?
I have a question. I'm just strictly on a phone call, so I don't have text or video. But I want to ask this to all the pros: is everybody happy with tennis being in the fall for high school? He mentioned doing work with high school. You know, we as a pro group signed a petition, and every pro in Arkansas signed it to get high school tennis moved back to spring. And the AAA, the guy dropped it in the trash can. He goes, "We don't care about tennis." But I really think that moving high school tennis to the fall has been the worst thing that ever happened to high school tennis. And it prevents a lot of people from playing. And a lot of the kids don't have access to high school tennis until they get to school. And so if they get to school on the first day and they got a match 2 days later, it's kind of hard for them to practice. And so they go out there and get killed by the regular tennis players.
This is Kelly Holmes. Can you guys hear me?
Hey, Kelly.
Yes, Kelly.
I don't disagree with that. My only concern is that I believe one of the factors in moving it back to the fall was that we were just up against it with weather in the spring, and found that the fall is a little more conducive. But I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, but I mean, if I'm a kid that never goes out and plays, but I want to play on my high school team, I walk out for the first tennis match and it's 97 degrees in August and I'm playing the tennis match. You know, you're right. In February, you do get bad weather, but by the time they get around to district and state tournaments, good weather. But the whole reason that they changed it back when they changed it was because they said girls didn't have enough sports in the fall. And so they wanted to move tennis to a fall sport because all girls had was volleyball. Yeah. And of course, now there's a million things, and cheerleading and drill team and band all do their competitions in the fall.
Yep.
And so that excludes all those people from getting into high school tennis. And I
think what we found, Jimbo, is a lot of the states do various things. I know different states may offer a fall boys and a spring girls. So it's kind of been a mixed bag, even across the southern section, as far as when high school sports are offered. I think the best solution we can have, maybe to come up with an answer, is just to try our best to try to incorporate these players into continuing to play, whether it's fall or spring. And you know, we have, and I know a lot of us probably see this. We see so many of our players pick up the high school racket and then don't pick it back up until the next season. So, and
that's why it would be so much better to have it in the spring, because when they get to school, they can have practice every day after school till they roll around to spring high school tennis. Where the way it works now, some of them are playing a match before school starts. You know, they have to start their schedule. They have a high school match 3 or 4 days before school's even ends. So it's just a lot of people from playing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yes, Paul, real quick.
Chris, Paul from Bella Vista. You know, those are all really good points. And I talked to a bunch of people about this, and that's one of the reasons I really want to get this High School Tennis Coaches Association off the ground, so we do have a voice. I've spoken with Joey Walters at the AAA many times, and he's all for it. Deanna Garrison at the PA is all for it, getting involved with the High School Tennis Coaches Association. Pat and I are going to try to meet here in the next month or so we can get something on the calendar for August. The points are all good. The smaller schools definitely are schools that are being hurt by having football teams. The larger schools, they don't care because the kids are specializing. Up here, we're 6A, and all of our kids that are playing Bentonville West, Bentonville High School West, Rogers, go right down the line. Most of those kids are specializing. They aren't playing other sports. Smaller schools, I totally. But that's why we've got to get together and do something positive for these high school coaches so we do have a voice. That's all I got. Thanks.
I agree. Tim McCollum asked a real good question. He asked, do either of y'all have success utilizing the red, orange, green balls with adults? Pat,
Yes.
either one of
Yes,
y'all ever used
absolutely.
it?
We have using it for fit tennis, which is a cardio tennis type of program. And for beginning adults, we use them all the time.
Yeah, we absolutely do. That's one of the things. And as the classes get bigger, we had 30 people in our last apprentice class, and as we specialize working on different strokes, I can send for red balls, and then as they progress in orange balls, we're there rallying while I'm working with a different group and we're doing rotations. So, yes, I use those a lot.
That's good. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Do we have any other questions, Claire, in the chat box?
We just have a few thoughts there from Bill and Tim. Any other questions, anybody?
I think those were all really good topics of discussion. High school tennis is definitely a sport that we want to try to get more engaged in. I think if us pros getting more involved can help in any way, I think that's a great way. Even making suggestions on why it would be beneficial, maybe to change different seasons or to offer different seasons would be good. I'd like to, oh, hang on just a minute. It looks like Kevin got a question. Do you ever have families play together? Chris, do y'all ever do that out there at your facility?
Are you talking about in a beginning program? Yes, sometimes we'll have parents and maybe a child. I've found, one of the things over the years that it's kind of tough to have somebody under the age of 18 out there in an adult beginning clinic. Usually they're just so much more athletic than the adults, and it kind of discourages some of them. But yes, I've had.
Hey, Pat, what about you guys? Do y'all ever do any kind of family, parent, child, or anything going on programs?
Yeah, we do. We do. And we have a program called Tiny Tots and Moms, where we'll bring the little 4 to 6 year olds out with their mom on the same tennis court. Sometimes we'll use 2 pros for that and separate the adults and the kids, but they're right next to their kids. And the little ones seem to like their moms or dads out there a lot. So we do. And I grew up playing with my mom and dad, and I grew up playing with my neighbor who was 40 years older than me, a great tennis player, and adults. So I just think it's so important. We're starting to do it more. I want to do it more. Family days, family tournaments, parent-child type stuff. My customers are asking me for it too. So, I mean, I think it's critical and very important, and we're going to do more of it starting today.
That's super. Any more questions in the chat box, Claire?
Yeah, we got another one from Stephen Faulkner. Is JTT big in your area?
Pat, start with you this time.
In the past, it hasn't been really big because, tennis has been at 3 country clubs. And they've had programs. It's mostly advanced junior team tennis. But we have started to grow the program, and it's growing leaps and bounds. And I think is critical, just like family tennis. I think having that platform is critical to keep the kids playing, especially with tennis being in the fall. We've got something in the spring for them. But I'm with Paul and Jimbo on that totally, that it should be a spring sport, especially in Arkansas. We're missing the boat. We're losing kids to other sports that I could get, in the springtime, no doubt about it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Athletes that we need and America needs. So it's bigger than just
Chris. Yeah, no, I can't agree more. Chris, what about y'all? Do y'all offer JTT at your facility?
We have. JTT's been a struggle in our area. We tend to get some groups that a couple clubs will join together and create super teams, and it's tough to take kids out there. So we've had the problem where You either go out there and beat the snot out of everybody, or you turn around and get the snot beat out of you. It's just not.
Yep.
That's our fault. That's our pros' fault. You know. So it's a great idea. It's, you know, it's one of those things you want to have work, but until we all get on the same page in our area, I don't know that'll be as big as it should be. How's that for politically correct answer?
Great.
Oh, we're a family here. You guys know that. Well, okay. If there's any more questions, feel free to put them in. Kind of wanted to kind of go over real quick, kind of what we talked about. Again, we do have that raffle starting. So if you don't follow us on Facebook or Instagram, look for the USPTA Southern Division. On either of those, we'll be putting up more information for that raffle and the giveaway items. And again, Claire put in Jason's contact information. Like I said, I apologize he couldn't be on today. He had a prior engagement, just couldn't join us. But feel free to email him if y'all have any other questions about that raffle. We'll be putting that information out there. And then I'd like to thank both of our hosts, both of our guests, Pat. I almost said Whitney. Sorry, Pat. Pat.
That's okay. We're one and the same, I promise.
Pat and Chris, and then of course, all of you guys. I'd love to thank all of you guys for joining the call today and putting in and asking such really good questions and really getting some positive feedback. We couldn't do anything that we do without the partnership and the relationships that we have with all you guys that are tennis professionals and out there and actual boots on the ground. So anybody else have any questions? Claire, do you want to talk anything, or Scott? Is Scott still on the call? I want to thank too Scott and Claire. They really helped me get this webinar going and got the questions and everything engaged. Claire, Scott, do either one of y'all have anything?
I just want to say thanks to everybody, and we'll have another webinar next quarter, so be on the lookout for the email and the marketing.
Yep, thank you to everybody for being here and participating. And also to Chris for doing everything.
Well, thank you guys, and we look forward to helping you guys and working with y'all. Like I said, this was recorded, so we will put that out there on the Facebook page, the link. So in case you want to go back and review it, we'd love to be able to help you guys in any way. So thanks everybody for participating, and thanks to our guests who came on today.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank y'all. Bye.
Dead here.